Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Christy Michaels. I'm a priestess of Mary Magdalene and a longtime social justice advocate. And I wanted to share this story with you about some work I learned from Marianne Williamson. One morning I was sitting in meditation, and speaking of meditation, I'd like to start this particular talk with lighting a candle, because really the answers to some of the difficulties and problems in the world have to do with solutions for peace, solutions for forgiveness. And so to begin by focusing on a metaphor of light, and I also, as a priestess, work with essential oils. This is rose oil, and the beauty and the purpose of rose is rose is connected to the lowest chakra, the survival chakra, and it is an essence of earth. When you breathe in the rose, one of the highest frequencies and vibrations, it removes our resistance to opening our minds, opening our hearts, and letting the energy come up so that we may be accessing a greater intelligence, spirit guidance, however you want it, angelic realm, any of those wonderful things. It's so important to hydrate, yeah, don't you think? I grew up in Hawaii, and when I was 6 years old, I would walk down to the beach where my house was. I was very fortunate. And I remember just looking at the extraordinary beauty. I thought, oh my God, there has to be a God. Even though I saw plenty of things that were completely insane that were going on in the world. I mean, we went out on our beach one night to watch the first nuclear testing that was done down in the South Pacific. And the bomb that was released had such an impact that it lit up the skies of Hawaii, even though we were thousands of miles away from where the bombs were being discharged. This insanity of bombing and destroying the earth I frankly don't understand what people need air to breathe, clean water to drink. So anyway, my prayers of love and forgiveness as we move through this wonderful story that I'm about to tell about the Liberian Peace Women's Movement and how the Berlin Wall came down. So I'm going to share this is a story about the power of things that we think of as not powerful. We think that peace is not powerful, it's soft. Love is not powerful, it's soft. But love is really the only thing that's real. And peace is the only thing that's real. For we are the peace and love of God. And it's our resistance to it, the lack that our hearts are not open and we are not activating the divine thoughts of God. In this particular event tonight, this journey that we're about to take, I wanted to talk about this extraordinary work. Now, how I came to learn about it was that I was sitting in meditation, and I always asked, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? And I heard, go to Marianne Williamson's website. Okay, I don't normally go to her website, but I was guided to, so I did. And up popped a flyer of her conference called the Sister Giant Conference. So I grabbed my daughter and we flew down to LA to attend with 500 women who came in from all over the country. And the first night that she did was on witch burning, because she said, you know, we are 51% of the population women. And she said, we have lost our voice, and witch burning shut us up. And then she showed the film about the Liberian peace women's movement, and the suffragettes were shown the Saturday and Sunday following that. Anyway, Pray the Devil Back to Hell. You can find it on youtube.com. It's $2.99 to watch it. It'll give you some idea of how these women chose peace. And it's an important movie to watch because the passion and the way in which they were so determined to bring peace back to their villages was really amazing. And of course, we've had symbols of peace. St. Francis of Assisi is known for his peace prayer. And I'm going to begin with this because the prayer asks us to become a channel of peace, that where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. And O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Well, when I first learned about the St. Francis of Assisi prayer, I have to tell you, the idea of, where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is hatred, let me get the hell out of there. I don't want to be a part of it in any way. And of course, I'm a very fortunate person in that I live in a very peaceful neighborhood. I don't have bombs going off or gunfire going, and we haven't had any mass shootings in our area yet. And so it's very important. But the thing that happens is that because we're ultimately all connected and we're all part of this one life, and the life that I am is the exact same life that you are, no matter who you are, or what race you are, what religion you are, we are all one in that one life. I do feel the impact, and my heart breaks every time. And so I'm always looking for what can be done, what can really be done. And, Mother Teresa talked about, if you invite me to an anti-war rally, you will not see me there. If you invite me to a peace rally, I'm all there. So this was quite extraordinary. These women found a way to tap into the concept of peace. And it started with a dream that the woman who was the leader of this group, and she had a dream, and in the dream she was told to gather the Christian women. So she went to her church to speak. And while she was speaking and telling them that we need to rise up, we need to end this insanity, there was a Muslim woman that was also in the congregation. And she wanted to speak. And she said, my Muslim sisters want peace too, because they were going through the same atrocities. What happened in Liberia was the rebel forces were funded by the rebel leader, who became, through his ability to terrorize the people into putting him in power, he was able to fund these child soldiers, get them guns, send them into villages to take over areas. And he told them, here's the gun, which empowers you. Now, these are really poor kids. And now they have weapons. And he says, and oh, by the way, you can rape the women or children, take whatever you want from these people. And so that's what they did, through this man saying and giving permission that they could do it. Well, the in Africa, if you rape a woman in front of her husband, it breaks up the marriage. It destroys the relationship. And so these women were being brutalized. And then finally, the military came in and they tried to take back the territories. And of course, they come in and they do the same thing. They start raping the women as well. And the women are going in the middle. They're like, hey, what is up with this? Like, no. It's like the work. Another documentary that's really important to see is Eve Ensler's work on the City of Joy, because she said women have become weapons of war. And what are they fighting for? They're fighting for disrupting communities, ripping apart the fabric of family structures so that corporations can go in and take the resources that they want from certain minerals that run your Apple phone or iPhones, and certain other resources, diamonds. So this rebel leader was connected to the diamond industry, getting wealthy off of that. So anyway, it was just heartbreaking for these women. And they finally decided through this dream that this one woman had to stop it by standing up and saying what they wanted. So that was an incredible thing. But the unique thing was they were joined with Christian and Muslim women together. Now, wouldn't that be fabulous in America if the real Christian women would join with Muslim women in a united front and say no more? Quakers, of course, would come along. Buddhists would come along for sure, because they also are peaceful groups. But really, I would love to see Christian and Muslim women standing side by side in white, praying for peace. So it's all about choosing peace. And one of the things they got clear about very early on was it's nothing political. They don't want to be concerned with government policy differences and all that kind of stuff. The people who are voted into power are earmarked with those responsibilities. And they realized if they didn't keep their message simple, fortunately, picking something like it's all about choosing peace is like the most profound and wonderful thing to do, because peace is really who we are. We are the peace and love of God. The Course in Miracles says that, there are things, the invisible things of life, which are really what is real. Love is what is real in life. We're not talking about romantic love. We're talking about the love of God, the agape, the peace and love that is the makeup and the fabric of our being. It is who we are. And so when you hold a presence like these women did with their signs for peace, it's something that is already in us, and we can't not. It's like Marianne's book that she wrote called Return to Love. We are returning to love because that is who we are. We can't leave love. We need to go to love. It is the truth of our being. And so this was a brilliant strategy on their part, that we choose peace now. We want peace now. We are awakening to peace. Of course, I love the Course in Miracles lesson. It says, I could see peace instead of this. And this brings in another element that is so critical and important, and that is the element of visioning. So when the people have no vision, they perish. So these women began to hold a vision for peace. They began to see peace instead of the insanity, the brutality, the incredible difficulties and pain and suffering. They decided that they want peace more than this. So the Course also goes on to say, if the prayer of the heart asks for this, this will be given because this will be received. And prayers of the heart of a mother are probably some of the most unbelievably strong prayers. So I strongly recommend that you go and get the movie and watch it. How can peace? I mean, I love the reporters are interviewing Marianne is putting out a politics of love, right? And that she's going to use love to take Trump down, and people kind of laugh, and somebody posted on my Facebook page that, oh, it's not really real. It's not. She's not. I mean, it's great and everything. And all the reporters always say, oh yeah, love it. I mean, love is great. It's wonderful love and everything, but that's not really real. And so I wanted to tell you the story about how the Berlin Wall came down, because it shows you the power of what is real, and love is real. And you can't build walls and wall people out, because that's an insane idea. It's an idea of separation. And an idea of separation has no ability to sustain itself. It's not sustainable because it's not the truth. And only the truth can prevail. But people have to awaken to it. So what happened was, there was a woman, and it's in the documentary of the Children for Peace documentary that was back, I think, in the 80s when she was doing this, because I think the Berlin Wall came down in like 1989. And what she was doing was she was going around the country with groups of children, and she was trying to demonstrate to people the impact that war has on children. So she had this quilt made where all the names of children who had died from the hand of war, and just really showed you how many children suffer because of war. And so she would go to these different spots, and she would take groups of kids with her, and they would unroll this quilt, and it would get media attention. And one of the places that she went to was the Great Wall of China, and the kids all unrolled the quilt, and photographers were there and reporters were there, because it creates a great news story. And then she's trying to spread the word that we want peace instead of war. And here's why. It's so harmful to children. And so she would unroll the quilt. Now, she had a practice that every time she unrolled the quilt, wherever it was in the world, she would always light a candle, and a candle for peace, and say a prayer of intention for peace. And so one of the places that she went was the Berlin Wall. And she unrolled the quilt there, and she lit her candle and did her thing with the children, to show an intention of peace at the Berlin Wall. And then she went about her way. But eventually, when the wall came down, she received a call that she was invited. They were having a ceremony where they were going to honor peace advocates who had been working for peace for so long. And they were all getting a piece of the wall as a kind of a plaque or an award for their peace work. And the award ceremony was taking place at the place where the wall had its first crack. And she was really curious about where this will be. So when she arrived there, she found out and discovered that the first crack in the wall, was exactly where she had put her candle. So just take that in for a second. She was in her heart doing this tremendous peace work with such compassion that her intention, and lit this candle and placed it, was a spot which later became where the first crack was. I just thought that story was fabulous. So I wanted to share it with you. So I went to San Francisco. There was a group of us that held a rally in front of Senator Dianne Feinstein's office in downtown San Francisco. And I saw this picture of a painting that somebody was holding up in the rally. And I thought this said it all. You know, I don't know what it's going to take up to awaken the Christian rights about who they think these people are. You know, people are holding all this prejudice and hatred and everything for what? For human beings who hold the same life and love. And why are these people fleeing? You have to stop for a minute and be willing to understand. If their home life was beautiful and prosperous and loving and fun and they live in a really good place, why would they be leaving and uprooting their family and going through horrific conditions, traveling thousands of miles and whatnot to come to an unknown situation in an unknown place? It's just doesn't make sense. And of course, it's because of the work of the corporations have done in pillaging these areas of and activating the rebel forces and the drug lords, and it's all the insanity of everything from drug addiction to stripping resources from country. There's a great book called The Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which I highly recommend you read if you want to learn more about the backstory, because he explains what, as a CIA agent, what he was doing to try to overthrow leaders of countries and put people in power and positions that were favorable to American corporations so they could go in and do whatever they wanted to do, which was not always in the best interest of the people. And this has been a karma that's been horrific on the part of so we've allowed this to happen, and because we haven't been speaking out, so I have to speak out myself. We have to stop this crucifying of Black and brown people. This must stop. It's not the truth of who we are. It is not our value system. These people are human beings, and in what part of life in them do you not understand? I don't get it. But we also have to stop caging children. You know, this is really sad. What we're doing to children, this is not part of our value system. And the brutality, and I just was reading an article today about the number of children that are being molested and thrown into the foster kids. And of course, Epstein died, who was running a sex trafficking operation on his island, and it's just really, really sad. And we need to understand that we choose peace. We've got to start choosing peace. Those of us who understand, and as Marianne says, majority of people are loving and want to love, are compassionate, want to live in peace. But we have to stand up and speak now. We need to choose peace instead of this. And we need to raise our voices to the point where we're saying no more, not anymore, not on my watch, because we choose peace. And it's really, really hard sometimes to be aligned in perfect harmony with peace when you see so much brutality. But we've got to say, because we're choosing peace instead of this. Look at this. We don't want to think that we are doing what Hitler did, but look what the pictures are no different. These are children behind bars. And of course, today we've already had 6 children who have died so far, much less the trauma that the children have been put through by being separated from their parents is horrific. Because we have to understand that we are one with all people. Everybody has the life of God in them, and there is no one who doesn't. So we have to choose peace instead of this. I'm just like, I don't know how to encourage people, but through the prayers and forgiveness. You know, in El Paso, they just had a mass shooting, and one of the fathers of a child who was killed by the shooter has already stepped forward and offered his forgiveness to the shooter. So, I mean, it can be done. Even people who've been through the worst of the worst things. Where are we going to? Are we going to more war, more hate? And what is that? You know, an eye for an eye just like gets people blind, and that doesn't help anything. So we have to move to, and there's wonderful organizations now that are supporting and helping people. There's an organization called uh, Pathways to Forgiveness by Eileen Barker, and you can Google and check that out. And she helps people who don't know how they can get themselves to a place of forgiveness. And when you're talking to a relative who's holding this kind of hatred, you have to pray for them, and you have to be a presence of love for them, and just keep affirming, I'm choosing peace, I'm choosing love instead of this, and just hold your ground in the face of their insanity. I know it's not easy because the booming voice of a patriarchal man or woman is very hard to stand up against. But if we don't lose it, we're going to lose the most precious thing, which is life itself. And we are in a dire, perilous state. So please go and watch Pray the Devil Back to Hell. Please go to YouTube and listen to Marianne Williamson's talk that she just did. She was in San Francisco on August 15th, and you can find it on on youtube.com. And she talks about, the real sources of some of these conditions and what has to happen to really turn things around. Very important talk. So I'm very grateful that you stuck with me this way. We will be at Open Secret the second Tuesday of the month, and you can contact me at www.gospelofmarymagdalene.info to learn more about what I am doing and how we can move forward on this. So I appreciate your support and your love and your commitment to peace. Blessed be. Thank you.
Mother,